So we've been taking a look at large and small percents, and you've been doing some practice with this kinds of things. But sometimes you get large and small percents, and these can get a little wacky. If you look at something like this, where you say, okay, 0.02% of the calves had a defective gene. Well, you remember that a percent, like if this had been 5, whoops, try again. If this had been 5%, we would have said that 5 out of every 100 had this defective gene. Well, it's 0.02%. So what does that mean? 0.02 out of every 100 has a defective gene? That doesn't make any sense. You can't have 0.02 of a calf. Well, if you rewrite this fraction maybe this way. How about if I multiply the top and the bottom by 100? So that make this 2, and this makes this 10,000. Okay, I chose 100 because I wanted to make this decimal into a whole number. So what this says is 2 out of every 10,000 calves have a defective gene. So okay, that's all right. That makes sense, I guess. So it's not very many calves. But what in the world does this mean when you say we've got 260% of last year? Well, that seems like it's impossible. How can it go over 100%? Okay, well, you can still think of it this way. If you write that as a fraction, there were 260 inches this year for every 100 inches last year. Okay, so it was an increase. That it got bigger. So what we'll do is be calculating with these things, and I'm gonna suggest that maybe you, instead of writing the ratios, that you switch and start using the percent sentence. Let me remind you what that means here. So if I had asked you to do 3% of 48, you could come over here and write, okay, here's my 0%, here's my 3%, here's my 100%, and here's 0, here's 48, and we're trying to find out what's this number. Okay, and so you'd write your ratio, 3 over 100 equals x over 48, and then you'd solve. You hopefully remember that when you multiply across this way, you get the same thing as when you multiply across this way. So we'll write those. 100 times x is what you get multiplying across this way, and 3 times 48 is what you get when you multiply across this way. Okay? And then you divide by 100. So let's divide off 100 here. Okay? And you got your answer. Well, what I'm looking at here is if I take this number, this expression right here, I could rewrite it this way: 3 over 100 times 48. I shouldn't use an x for times because I've already got an x up there. Times 48. Well, what if this had actually been, let's say, 5% of 90? Well, we would have done the same work, and we'd have a 5 here and a 90 there. Okay? Or if this had actually been 32% of 400, we'd have done the same math, and we'd have 32 times 400. Okay, well, what you're doing here is every time you're taking your percent and dividing it by 100, making it into a decimal, okay, and then multiplying by whatever number you're supposed to find the percentage of. So we just said, look, how about if we just do the percent, let's just write 15% of 70. How about if we just make that into a decimal by dividing by 100 and multiply by 70 and get our answer? Okay? So when you did the percent sentence, you had some number as a percent of some other number is the answer. Okay, so what we did here is write this as a percent. I'm sorry, as a decimal. Okay, multiplied it by this number and got that number. Okay. So the advantage of that was this. If I was asked to find 42% of what? Wow. Try that again. 42% of what is 90? We just said, look, we know it's 0.42 times whatever this is equals 90. And so we said, look, how about if, since this number is multiplied by 0.42 to get 90, how about if we just divide by 0.42 and we'll have our answer. Okay? So this is going to be really nice if you're asked to do something like this. 0.3% of 7,000 is what? Okay. We'll say, look, take this and divide it by 100. Okay, so as you know, dividing by 100 moves the decimal place 2 spaces to the left, so 0.0003. The of means times. It's still going to be 7,000 right here. And then is means equals, and we'll calculate our answer. Okay, so grab a calculator. I think I've got one right here. Okay, so we're doing 0.000. Oh, better clear all this up. 0.0003 times 7,000, and I get 2.1 as my answer. Okay. Or if you're asked to do 430% of what is 750, okay, we'll say, look, take this percent, write it as a decimal, so divide by 100, that moves the decimal place 2 spaces. 4.3 times what is 750. And we'll just divide off this 4.3 to find out what the box was. So let's get our calculator. We're going to do 750 divided by 4.3. And let's see, can I clear this thing? I get about 174.4. Go back. So that's going to give you a bit of an idea of how to get started on calculating large and small percents.